live here for the next episode here of Mets Talk. It's been a while, and honestly, there's not even an excuse for it being a while. There's really no excuse. We just haven't gotten around to uploading or streaming any Mets podcast. And like I said, no excuse. The Rangers kind of took over. I guess that's the excuse that we have. But even then, I mean, the Mets season was still going on and we didn't really upload much. So we do apologize there. But we do have a lot to talk about today. We're going to recap the season. Unfortunately, talk about the World Series because of the fact that it is now it's 3 out of 4 years now where we have to sit back in the CVS floor and watch a division rival in the World Series yet again and against the Houston Astros
Uh,
yet again. So we're going to talk about all of it. Before we do, though, remember to leave a like on the stream, or if you're watching on replay, to leave a like. And if you're listening to the audio version, to leave a review and everything. But like I said, we got a lot to talk about here. So it's been rough. It's been rough. I need a bit to digest this one. That's also why we couldn't make a podcast. I needed time to let this one sit with me.
yeah, I'm right with you on that one. The Mets season ended rather quick, way quicker than we expected. Losing in three to the Padres was something we didn't really envision, but as we know, they blew the division
Like the
sadly.
Padres is something we didn't envision.
Yeah, we didn't envision that in the first place. We thought we were in a good spot to win this division. Then we got swept by the Braves, and then everything just hit a downhill slope. And here we are in the off season talking about also the Phillies in the World Series, which we'll get to, which is depressing.
Yeah, it sucks. We're gonna talk about that probably for. I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot. We're gonna start though with recapping this past season because of the fact that despite them losing in 3 games, they had a historic season. I couldn't talk for some reason there. They had a historic season, being the second winningest team in Mets franchise history. It just sucks that it didn't matter at the end. It just sucks that they couldn't get one more win. And I don't know. I don't know. Like, would we have beaten the Phillies? Who knows? With the way they're playing, I mean, for all we know, we still would have lost to the Phillies, even if we won the division here. But we'll talk about the season. We'll talk about the regular season because I don't want to talk about the playoffs. Let's talk about the regular season and let's talk about the year some of these guys had. So, in your minds, who were some of the best players this season?
All right, so as you said, the regular season for the Mets for the most part was good. I mean, this team got 101 wins, and over 100 wins, as you said, historic season, one of the best in franchise history in the regular season. So there was a lot of good. To name a few players, Pete Alonso had himself a very good season. Francisco Lindor in his second year as a New York Met did prove some the people wrong. He had a solid season. Starling Marte came in, did a lot of good things. Those are three off my head that I think of when you say a good season for the Mets. Are we just talking hitters or are we
Well, we'll start
pitchers
with
as well?
hitters because there's
Yeah.
also two more I guess you could add to the list here as Marte, Nimmo, Alonso McNeil, and Lindor
How could I forget
all were
McNeil?
Silver
Yeah.
Slugger finalists. And I think McNeil has a chance to win 2 Silver Sluggers at second base and the utility role. So it's going to be interesting to see if he could win 2. That would be a first probably in, I imagine it's a first in MLB history if he does win 2. But I don't know about Nimmo being a Silver Slugger finalist. I mean, what other options, I guess, were there with center field for options of the Silver Slugger award? But to me, the rest of them all deserving. Lindor having a bounce back season was crucial for this team. Unfortunate, obviously, what happened the playoffs with all these guys. But outside of McNeil, I thought McNeil showed up in the playoffs. But outside of him, I mean, we're not going to talk about it. We've talked about it enough here. We beat the drum. But with these guys in the regular season, yeah, Lindor had a bounce back year, which was nice to see, despite the fact that the guys I traded had solid years too. Well, we don't have to worry because Lindor had a great year. Alonso had, I'd say that this was his best season. I think it tops his rookie home run season because at least this year he he was hitting for average too. He was getting on base more, and he was also more patient. There were slumps that he got in, but that happens with power hitters all the time where he struck out a lot. He was swinging at everything. But I thought for the most part, he stayed consistent throughout the year. The Marte acquisition was huge for this team and much needed. It was a much needed acquisition.
Yeah, I was stoked about the Marte acquisition, as every Met fan was when we first got him, and he proved more than enough for the Mets this season. He was fantastic, batting right behind Nimmo. He always got on base. He's flashy with that speed, of course, that he has. He's great in the field, so I'm excited to have him for another 3 years. He's definitely a very beneficial piece for the Mets. And then, as you said, McNeil, who how could I forget him? He had a hit for the highest average in all of Major League Baseball this year. The way he just gets on base, puts the bat on the ball, it's unreal. I mean, he does everything you want at the plate, and I mean, what a season for him.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's just great also considering the fact
What?
that uh
Getting called a bum out here.
yeah, by Nick. Nick, of
Oh,
course,
sick.
here.
He's
But
here.
uh but yeah, McNeil's a guy that everyone wanted traded before the season as well. So it was nice to see him have the year he had. One of the few guys that showed up when it mattered as well. You talk that series against Atlanta, one of the only guys that was hitting was Jeff McNeil. You talk the playoffs, despite them only getting one hit in that last game. For the most part, Jeff McNeil was the guy that was getting on base and producing at a consistent level, getting some big time hits. We all remember that hit that he got in game 2 of the wild card series. So, overall, great year for Jeff McNeil being a utility finalist. Somehow not for the gold glove, which was interesting. I thought he deserved, I thought him, did Nimmo finish as a finalist for the gold glove?
I don't think so. Even though he was insane.
Mind blowing. He was in the 99th percentile for outs above average, I'm pretty sure, in center field. And then you also have Luis Guillorme, who was robbed of a gold glove finalist spot in the utility role. It just shows it's a popularity contest, which is why I've never taken stock into gold gloves myself, but it just more and more as the years go on, you're just seeing why they just don't matter at all. They're so pointless because every single year there's guys that are robbed. And for the most part, it's always the household names. You have Fernando Tatis last year, which I'm pretty sure he was a gold glove finalist. What did he do? What did he do in the field? Who was a finalist this year, too, that was awful in the field? I'm forgetting who, because there was someone that's just known to be awful in the field and they
Yeah.
gave him a spot. I think it was
I
a
don't
third
remember
baseman.
either, but yeah, as you said, I mean, it is a popularity contest. Definitely nothing to be taking too seriously. It's unreal some of the guys that get robbed and some of the guys that get put in consideration for these awards.
Yeah, I'm trying to quickly look here. Oh yeah, Juan Soto. Juan Soto's awful
Yeah.
in the field,
Mhm.
and it was also funny because it was the day after, the same day that he made that horrendous play in the outfield against the Phillies in the playoff game. So that was also ironic there. But I mean, you look at some of these names and you see Nolan Arenado in there, which he deserves it. He's a good fielder, but Dansby Swanson, I'm not sure if he's great in the field, but another household type name there. First base,
Mhm.
you have Goldschmidt and Olson, household names. Catcher, JT Realmuto, household name. Tomas Nido, that was one of the only gold glove finalists, which I forgot to mention. Tomas Nido, liked how he was in the field this year. So that is for sure. I mean, we'll talk about catching because, uh,
There's a lot to unravel there.
uh,
We're
oh,
all Mets fans now.
we're going to talk about that. But in terms of guys that finishing the gold glove finals, I mean, yeah, there's just a couple names that just in the National League that I felt were probably just because they're household names, but it is what it is. I don't take much stock into it, but the Silver Slugger Award is kind of similar in a way. I mean, Brandon Nimmo probably shouldn't be a finalist, but it is what it is there. But in terms of the hitting side of things, yeah, there were some positives. I thought Mark Hanna's a guy that's tough to evaluate because there were streaks where he was the most clutch hitter in the Mets lineup, and then there were streaks where he did literally nothing for this Mets offense.
Yeah, I agree. Mark Hanna is definitely tough to evaluate. I liked him in my opinion for the most part. I thought he was good at getting on base. He was a good contact hitter. Showed some of his clutchness, as we know, in that Phillies game. That's when he really kind of, I guess, Mets fans really
Start to
just
appreciate him.
yeah, exactly. So I think he was good, but he would get in those slumps too, where he was just looking lost at the plate. So I don't know. I like Mark Hanna, but he definitely had some parts of the season where you kind of question, like, I don't know, is this the guy we paid a good amount of money for in the offseason? So hopefully next year he could fix up a little more and be a great key piece for us because we need him. And as if he DHs or plays in outfield or whatever.
Yeah, and that was part of the issue too, is when they picked up Tyler Naquin, he saw less playing time, and I thought that it was wrong. I said it then. You guys know that how much I was bashing Tyler Naquin, but uh he shouldn't have been playing over Marcano, considering how hot of a bat Marcano was swinging at the time too. I want to say it was August, right, where Marcano was swinging such a great bat, and they still elected, just because of the matchups at times, to play Tyler Naquin over him, which was wrong at the time, still wrong now, and for all we know, they get an extra win or so having that bat in the lineup versus having Tyler Naquin's bat in the lineup. And we're not talking about a wild card series loss. At least maybe we're talking about a division series loss, which even then I'd still say goes up there as a failure of a season, which, I mean, I hate to jump to the point of this recap segment, but yes, this was a failure of a season, no matter what way you put it, which we'll talk more about why. But in terms of other lineup pieces, I'm trying to think off the top of my head of other guys. I mean, Vogelback, I guess we'll talk about the deadline acquisitions right
Yeah.
now. Vogelback, okay at times. I mean, when he came in here, he was a hero.
Oh,
People were
he
rocking his
was.
jersey.
Yeah, he was insane when he first came to the Mets. Everyone loved the guy. And he just started to have the moments where he faded off, was looking for just ball after ball every time he got up there, looking to walk. So he he started out hot. That's the thing that sucks with Vogelback. And then he kind of really he grew on us so fast. And then as it got into like the final month of the season, we didn't see much from him, which was disappointing. And now he becomes a free agent, so the Mets gonna have to make a decision on him. And I'm sure we'll get to that more with the free agents. So yeah, it was mixed emotions about Vogelback as well.
Especially considering he was brought in to be the DH. He was brought in to be the number 5 hitter, 6 at times. It was disappointing what we saw at certain stretches with him, but definitely not as disappointing as the 2 other guys that they acquired at the deadline. We'll start with Tyler Naquin because we'll save the worst for last here.
Yeah.
But in terms of how Tyler Naquin was, he was the same sort of deal. He came in swinging a hot bat. I mean, he was hitting a lot of clutch home runs. He looked great in that series against I think it was against the Reds, ironically, where he was swinging a pretty good bat there. And then we did not see him, and he was so bad to the point where he did not even make the wild card roster. What does that tell you about how bad he was? And just he was brought in at the end of the day, though. I will say this: if we're going to take a positive away with Naquin, he was brought in to be an upgrade over Travis Jankowski, and I'd say he was. I'd say he was an upgrade. Jankowski wouldn't have hit any home runs with us probably throughout the season. At least Naquin got a couple clutch hits and clutch home runs here and there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he he did hit some clutch home runs. He brought him in for a bag of chips, really. So I'm not too mad with the acquisition. He did give us some good things. Definitely an upgrade over Janikowski, as you said. Um, but it just always we always have the sour taste in our mouth about this trade deadline, and we've talked about it every episode. It gets brought up one way or another.
Yep.
Um, but he certainly wasn't the worst, and we're gonna get to that shortly.
The man who was booed during the introductions of the Game 1 wildcard series, Darren Ruff. And ladies and gentlemen, you, me, Nico, every single person, all of us had the same amount of home runs as Darren Ruff did as a New York Met. The difference is he is getting paid to hit no home runs with the New York Mets. All of us, same amount. And we probably, if we tried to get in the batter's box, would have got the same amount of hits as him during his Mets tenure. How many hits did he have? Could somebody fill me in on that information? Because I'm going to
That
look it
would
up
be a good
quickly.
stat to pull up.
Let me
It can't
quickly
be
get that.
anything. Does he have 10? You think?
If he's at double-digit hits with the Mets, I will be very shocked because,
it couldn't have been much.
hey, 10 flat. 10
Oh,
flat. Let's go.
nice.
Let's
Damn.
go. Great production. So glad that we traded a younger version of him with prospects. So glad. So happy.
What a Billy Epler masterclass. I mean, it can't get better than that.
That was, I mean, we don't have to address it anymore. We addressed it then. We have,
Never made
I mean,
sense.
no. You traded a younger version of Darren Ruff with prospects for Darren Ruff. You traded prospects and 28-year-old JD Davis for a 36-year-old who mashes lefties, which is what you and I were told when we got him, and we didn't see him mash anything except for maybe the bench. Maybe he mashed the bench for all we know, but should have been mashing trash cans for this team in the wild card series because would have been nice to have those for the offense. And hey, if it's going to be anyone, let it be Darren Ruff that gets the fine and gets suspended for hitting those trash cans because he sure as hell wasn't doing anything for the lineup.
Wasn't at all. I mean, I don't even know. Like, we brought him in for this platooning with him and Volga back in the DH. And every time we see a lefty on the mound, we expect, Darren Ruff's going to do something. He's going to do something. Zero. A bagel. Not one home run for the power hitter we all were told that we got here. It was pathetic. Honestly, I don't remember. Like, I know it was a small deal, but like that trade was like the worst I've seen in like Mets history almost.
I mean, the trade when they announced that we got Darren Ruff, I was not even excited. And then I saw that JD Davis was in the deal, and
Yeah.
it's just like, why? You could have used this guy to go out and get JD Martinez. You could have got an actual quality bat. But instead, Darren Ruff, who was posting similar numbers, if not worse, than JD Davis. But I guess Billy Epler looked at he had 4 points better in his on-base percentage and a couple extra points in the OPS department, which Billy Epler talked about how much he loved in the exit interviews. So I guess that was the difference maker. Well, did not matter because after that, JD Davis went on in San Francisco to hit 263 with them, have a 361 on base, 496 slugging, a 857 OPS, and hit 8 home runs. Imagine the difference if we had that.
I know. I can't believe it. Like, as you said, he could have been a piece to get JD Martinez, Christian Vasquez, maybe Contreras, but we were so hesitant to give up these prospects. Mark Vientos would have been any deal, and he didn't look too fabulous for the Mets either. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, he came in late in the season, so see next year.
I'll also give him the benefit of the doubt because there's clearly an issue with the Mets development staff, which I've talked about this, and I think that it's fairly obvious because you look at the difference with the Atlanta Braves, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and just any competent organization. You look at when they call up these prospects, they're mashing right away. And then there's the Mets. These guys, for whatever reason, can rake in AA, rake in AAA. They have the top prospects. This is the second time now that they have the top prospect within the past 6 years with Ahmed Rosario and Francisco Alvarez. Both of them rake in the minor leagues. They come up and look lost in MLB spots. Granted, we didn't see a lot of Francisco Alvarez, but Ahmed Rosario was awful when he was first called up. There is some sort of issue, and it was I was listening to Wardy, Anthony Recker, and Joe Sorrell's podcast. Go check them out if you haven't. And Anthony Recker was talking about the difference between the Braves and the Mets development situation. The Braves, they have you way more prepared than the Mets do in the minor league system. Something needs to be fixed here because it is ridiculous. Because what's the point of holding on to these prospects if they're going to come up and do nothing either way?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. The Mets, I don't know what it is with them and prospects not being able to come up to the MLB level and do what they do in Double A, Triple A. But yeah, I mean, as we saw, Brett Beatty, he was good the first few games, and he fell off a cliff. I mean, he got the injury, but he looked lost for the most part. Mark Vientos, same deal with him, and then Alvarez, as you said, we didn't see a whole lot out of him. I'm excited. Hopefully, see him behind the dish next year, full time, because anything's better than the catches we have right now. I think that's quite obvious, but yeah, it just sucks to see a team like the Atlanta Braves, they just get every prospect possible and then they become a superstar. Michael Harris, perfect example of that. Like, I just wonder why the Mets, they have more highly anticipated prospects than Michael Harris, yet they are not doing anything right at the MLB level, which we've never seen from a Mets prospect. So it's sad to see, and there needs to be change within the development program with the Mets because I don't even know.
When's the last time they developed a star? I mean,
I know.
do not say, because I know someone's going to say Michael Conforto or Brandon Nimmo. No, I mean a legitimate, consistent all-star. When was the last time? Can
Gotta really
anybody
dig
tell
deep.
me? I mean, certainly not in you and I, not in our lifetime. Certainly not. And
Definitely
if
not.
so,
No.
I mean, we're blanking then because I can't think of anyone. I mean, David Wright. David Wright's probably the last star that this team developed. Jose
Yeah.
Reyes, that's about it. But so yeah, in our lifetime, sure, but I mean, it's been quite some time, hasn't it? It's
Yeah.
been quite some time since this thing has worked out, since this development system has worked out. And for a team that's we need to hold on to prospects and we need to build internally, how are you going to do it when you don't have the development staff to get these guys prepared?
Yep.
What's the point?
There's no other way around it. I mean, as you said, like they preach about having internally players grow in their system and then come to the MLB level and be a superstar, but we haven't seen that in forever. As you said, probably Jose Reyes and David Wright are literally the last we've seen of that, unless we are really missing a name here, but I don't think we are.
No, I mean, it's wild. And you consider the fact that the Mets also were as bad as they were. They draft all these guys and none of them have been superstars in this league. None. And you look at the difference between the Dodgers, which Steve Cohen saying that we need to be the Dodgers East. I will never forgive him for saying that. I mean, Steve Cohen, I love you, but you never should have made that comment. That was not smart of you, but we'll give you a pass because you extended the Shake Shack or you expanded the Shake Shack area. So I'll give you a pass there. But it's ridiculous that this team cannot develop anyone. And I want to know why this organization has a love for Ronnie Mauricio right now. Why is he still in the organization? Why? He's clearly an overhyped prospect. And where is he going to play when he gets here? If you're keeping Brett Beatty, okay, he's not playing third base. Lindor is your shortstop. McNeil is playing second base, or you might go out and sign a second baseman that, is going to be a star for you. I don't know, maybe. But you have either way Jeff McNeil, even if you don't. DH, you're hoping that you go out and get someone, or Francisco Alvarez might just be your DH because we know that his defensive ability behind the plate isn't the strongest. Where is Ronnie Mauricio going to play?
Yeah, I totally don't see it at all. He has to be traded. I mean, we see the Shohei Ohtani rumors. Maybe he can be involved in something over there. Hopefully, I mean, it would be nice. Just you know, it'd be all right. But I don't understand it. Your infield is packed. You don't have a place to play this guy. You have to get rid of him before his value maybe decreases even more. Because yikes, he looked a lot better last year than he did this year. I'll tell you that.
This could be fair, but I don't want to jump to conclusions yet with this. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's too early to jump to a conclusion with a guy like that. And then yeah, Jeff McNeil as well. But the problem is he had that down year. So
Exactly.
we have to wait and see. I want someone that is going to be a all-star year
Consistent.
in and year out, and they need to prove it for at least a couple more seasons, both of those guys, before I could jump to that conclusion. And the problem is also these guys were not hyped up prospects. I'm talking guys that they drafted in the first round and guys that were hyped up coming through the system. They haven't had it. They have not had it. And it's clearly a problem with this organization. So hopefully Alvarez ends up debunking that. But for right now, I mean, for guys that were hyped up, guys like Nimmo and Conforto, I mean, there's clearly a development issue with the outfielders. I mean, that's for sure. Because when's the last time this team has had a quality outfielder
Oh
that they
God,
drafted?
you're gonna
Oh,
have to
Juan
go back.
Lagares with his gold glove, everyone.
Give it up for Juan Lagares. Oh, I can't even.
Yes. The best number 12 in Mets franchise history, baby. Juan Lagares. Retire it. Don't let Lindor
Oh
wear it
boy.
anymore.
No, for real though. That's actually like all right. Infielders, we have some controversial ones that we've been talking about, but like we haven't even mentioned an outfielder. Like, wow, you got to really go back for that.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to see anyone try to tell me Conforto and Nimmo just because
Mm-mm.
Conforto has an all-star appearance. So no, he's not an all-star. And congratulations to him being a 1 or 2 year wonder. But no, he did not prove it. And there's a reason that he's not part of the organization anymore. So there is that in terms of the bats. We didn't even get to the pitching. The pitching,
We got a lot to
well,
unravel.
yeah, there's a lot here. With the pitching though, we'll start with Max Scherzer. I'm happy with the season despite his last 2 starts. I'm very happy with what we got from Max Scherzer.
Yeah, I think it's a success. Obviously, we knew what we were getting with him when we signed him. He was solid. He definitely was. Obviously, it ended on a pretty sour note in the Atlanta game and the obviously the wild card game, game one. I mean, granted though, the Mets were not scoring any runs, so how could you really put completely all the blame on him? But I thought he looked good. Obviously, him aging doesn't do him justice now down the road here, so I don't really know what to anticipate for next year. But I think he's a pitcher that could really just go the length of his contract here all the way to the end and be very solid for the Mets. I mean, it's not like he's just going to lose all his talent, you know. So, but just to say about this season, I thought he was good. I would give him like an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm there with you. I think they need to limit his innings more earlier on in the season instead of letting
Mhm.
him go 7, 8 innings like they did at times early on in the season. Limit him and have him more prepared for the postseason and for down the stretch because that's really what hurt them. I think that between him having the oblique issue pretty much the entire year and him also because of course, but uh the oblique issue and just him pitching as many innings as he did earlier on in the season. I think that that combines together to hurt the last 2 starts of the season for him. If they could limit his innings next season, I think that would be beneficial. But overall, yeah, I agree that an 8.5 is probably a fair spot, maybe a little bit lower, maybe an 8, just because of the fact that those last 2 starts really
Yeah,
ended up hurting. But
most important.
Jacob DeGrom, That's an interesting one. How do we evaluate Jake? Because that rough start in Oakland, that I mean, there were a couple rough starts, but he was the only one that showed up in the wild card series.
That's very true. He came back when he came back first that start. His first 3, 4 starts from there, he just looked like the same old Jacob DeGrom. We were not concerned at all. He had his rough patch. I mean, the Oakland game, I feel like wasn't the start of it. I feel like he had a bad one before then, if I'm not
Yeah, it
mistaken.
just that one kind of stuck out to me. I just
Yeah,
forgot who
because
they
it was
played that last one, but you're right.
yeah, because it's Oakland, and we rarely see these bad games from Jacob DeGrom. So this was like another one. We started to get nervous. The one against the Braves wasn't too pretty. But then again, he in game 2 really showed up for the New York Mets and pitched like he usually does. But velocity was a little down this year, which is a little disappointing. I thought he was missing with a good amount of his spots, but overall, I think you can't be too mad with him. You were worried how he was going to come back with the injury, but still stayed healthy, and I think he pitched pretty solid mostly. I can't be too mad with him.
Agree, considering what we got from him when he came back. Sucks that there were times where he couldn't go more than 5 or 6 innings, but
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, I'm pretty happy with DeGrom. I'd say probably an 8 as well out of 10
Well.
for the season for him. But we'll move on now to this is an interesting one. As we go down the rotation, it gets more interesting. Chris
Mm-hmm.
Bassett. How do we evaluate Chris Bassett? Because I mean, he was there were starts where he was letting up 6, 7 runs, and then there were starts where the guy was unhittable.
Exactly. He was the king of inconsistency. Um, wow. I don't even know where to start with a guy like Bassett. Like he I liked him. I thought he was a good pitcher, but there were just times where, as we said, he lost it and certainly didn't help in the wild card that last game. But I mean, again, we didn't score, so not all the blame could be put on him. But I really do have trouble with a guy like Chris Bassett and how to analyze him because he was, oh my God, like inconsistent. Like he looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball sometimes, and then other times he looked like a bottom of the rotation type of guy.
Yeah, I'd say a 6.5 out of 10 for Bassett. And then that wild card game, he didn't give us enough. And there were times where he wouldn't give us enough. He'd pitch like 3 innings and it was just a nightmare. Wanted to get back to this though about DeGrom. He has good years left in him because of the fact that he came up very late in his career and he started pitching at a very late age. So I'm not concerned about how many good years he has left. I'm more concerned of if he could stay healthy because he's not unhealthy because of his age, I don't think, but the guy's throwing like 100 miles an hour every single time out there and he needs to find a way to adapt and not throw 100 miles an hour but still be an effective pitcher because there are times where his velocity went so far down that he just became human, and that was the kind of the issue with Jacob DeGrom there. But in terms of with Bassett, yeah, I'd say that, and I agree. Yeah, he was just way too inconsistent. But if you want to talk more inconsistent, Mr. Taiwan Walker, um, I don't know where we go with you, Taiwan. I don't know where we go with you because what an interesting year this was.
Taiwan Walker. I'm gonna pull up the stats real quick just to have them and
I
all
mean,
right. So,
to summarize his stats, it was similar to last year where he was an all-star in the first half and then second
mm-hmm.
half plummeted down.
Yep. Oh, this is tough. Another guy. It's funny how like they're all free agents too. These guys are going over.
Yep.
So we have decisions to make. But yeah, as we said, first half Taiwan Walker looked great, and then he just fell off again. Like he just gave us those times where he falls apart. He's like a little bit of Carlos Carrasco in those first innings, sometimes where he just lets up 5 runs and then he's done after 2, 3 innings. But then he has those games where he goes 7. Like, it's so tough. I think he brings good stuff, but there's times where he just gets absolutely shredded out there.
Yep, you pretty much summed it up perfectly, and we'll have the conversation about guys staying and
Mhm.
going, but with Taiwan Walker, I would say that
Six
uh,
point five again.
I'd say a 6 or 5.5. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like his second half enough, and there were times though he came up big, and especially when there was injuries to Scherzer, DeGrom, and all those guys, he did come up clutch for us. Same with the next guy we'll talk about after, but yeah, there were just way too many inconsistencies, and then same goes for the last guy, Carlos Carrasco, another guy where there were times where he was giving you nothing, there were
Mm-hmm.
times where he was lights out, and I will say I'm thankful that these guys were lights out though when the injuries happened, because if they weren't,
Mm-hmm.
we would have been in a way worse spot.
Yeah, exactly. The season really could have turned on its head real quick if these guys fell apart when we had no Jake and Scherzer for that kind of long period of time. But they honestly showed up when they really needed to. So I applaud them for that. But I mean, you just can't deny the fact that there was times where they looked absolutely lost on the mound. So you have to have guys in your rotation that are going to bring it most of the time for you and not like just give you this like 60-40 ratio of good performances and bad performances.
Yeah, completely agree. And with that, we'll move on now to the guys that were kind of in swingman spots. You have, let's start with Tyler McGill since he's kind of an interesting one.
Hmm.
In my opinion, you got it. It's so tough. I'd give him a 2 or 3 out of 10 because there were starts where he was so good, but the problem is he was not healthy, and when he was not
Oh,
healthy, he was imploding out there.
yeah. It's so bad. It sucked that he got injured because beginning of the season, this guy was electric. I mean, that Philly start is the one that really stands out, of course, because got the combined no hitter going that game, started by him. So we were thrilled with this guy when we were first in the first half of the season. Then the injury hit, and then after that, I mean, we were questioning: is this Tyler McGill? Because it sure as hell did not look like it, and we threw him in the bullpen. I don't know. I was not thrilled with what I saw after the injury. So I think a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 maybe is just a fair rating for him.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it sucks. The Siler McGill thing kind of
Really
died
died.
down quickly. It was there and it died quickly. But David Peterson, I'd give him a 4.5 out of 10. There were times where he's same with Tyler McGill where he was awful, but then there were times. I mean, he showed it more than Tyler McGill where he was great, and I thought he actually did pretty decent in the bullpen outside of that appearance against the Yankees. I thought he was solid out of the bullpen.
Yeah. Peterson, I'll give like a 5, 5.5 out of 10. I
Okay.
didn't mind him too much. He was, yeah, as you said, good in the bullpen. Not as much a star in my eyes, even though he did have some starts when we were dealing with injuries that he did look good, but they were against, I would say, like the more lesser teams. He didn't really get a start against any of the big dog teams, I would say, but he did his job out there. The bullpen, he's definitely is the role that suits him more. He looked ugly at times. The Yankee game, as you said, is a big highlighter. But yeah, I think he brings it a solid amount, and I'm not too mad at the season he had, to be honest.
Yeah. That's fair. You were more nice than I was,
More
but
generous.
yeah. I don't know. There were just times where he just was so awful. I mean, especially when he was starting. I think he needs to stay as a relief pitcher, and obviously it's going to be tough to imagine that with how many holes this team has right now with the rotation going into next year, but now we'll move on to the guy who, I mean, how could you not want this guy back next year? Trevor Williams. I'm giving him. I'm saying it. I'm giving him an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, he was unreal. He was unreal, and I mean, he's done more for us than Javier Baez did. Like, I mean,
What are the odds? Only the Mets would get that type of, I wouldn't say luck, but just a Mets thing.
I mean, I'm happy with it though because Trevor Williams, he was absolutely unreal this season, and when you needed him for anything, he was there. You call for him to start, he gave you some solid innings. You call for him out of the bullpen, he gave you solid relief innings, and he was eating the innings that the starters couldn't go. If Carrasco went 3 or 4 innings, all right, Trevor Williams, you come in, pitch 2 innings, and bridge us to the back end of the bullpen. He was just absolutely unreal. Got to give him an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was very happy with Trevor Williams. I think he was great. He got a lot of strikeouts this year. He had 84 on the year, solid with almost 98 innings pitched. So productive season for sure. I mean, he stepped into a lot of spots, and we were kind of putting the guy all over the place, but he got the job done for the most part, no matter where he was. So an 8.5 out of 10, I think is a very fair rating for him. He's definitely a guy the Mets want to keep for the future.
Yep. And speaking of that, we get to the bullpen here. Edwin Diaz, I mean, 10 out of 10 season. I I don't care. 10 out of 10. I can't even tell you. Did he get charged with any blown saves this year? Because I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I can't either. I mean, like it's unreal. Edwin
Yeah.
Diaz, we were just scared. I mean, well, he obviously had a solid season last year, but I mean, this year, he was the best closer in baseball, not a
And I
question. So,
don't even care about the couple hits that he let up in that wild card game. I don't.
yeah,
He was that good that I could look past it because at the end of the day, either way, he shouldn't have been thrown into that spot. He was lights out, and the reason that this team went, he's the reason that they got 100+ wins. He was definitely part of it. And if he does not win reliever of the year, something is
oh,
wrong.
yeah,
And if he doesn't even get a Cy Young vote at the very least, one, there is a problem because this might be the best relief pitcher single season we've seen. And I'm saying that without exaggeration. I genuinely don't know if like the only thing that might hold it back is that he didn't get enough saves, but that's just because the Mets didn't have enough save opportunities for him, which
hmm
yes, it's going to be tough when they're looking at the votes and be like, "Oh, well, look at his saves. He tied the same amount as he had last season." But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you actually look in depth, he didn't have that many opportunities, and if they did look at that, they'd understand that this was probably the best out of any. And yes, I'm saying better than Mariano Rivera's best season because of the fact that Edwin Diaz, I mean, he was untouchable. He was untouchable. And his strikeout numbers were absolutely ridiculous for a relief pitcher. Wasn't
yeah,
he at like a, let me pull up his fan graphs here. He was at like a over 10 strikeouts per nine or something. Like it was something ridiculous there. Yeah,
yeah.
his Ks per nine, 17.
Oh my God. I mean,
Need I
unreal.
say more?
Yeah, I mean, we can we give him higher than a 10? I mean, a 10 can't even do it justice for how truly good he was this season. I mean, best closer by a mile, one of the best of all time. Seasons by him, Edwin Diaz. Um, and there was a report today coming out saying that the Mets are the most confident they could re-sign him out of all their free agents. He's beloved by the organization, which is great news because if this guy's wearing another uniform next season, I will be in the CBS and never coming out because
Yeah, and I
he's
can't
just under.
imagine him walking out to the Trumpets with another team. He's got to stay
Oh,
here. And I mean, that just adds to it. I mean, the entire stadium atmosphere when he came into a game,
oh my God.
absolutely unreal. And he pitched to it. It's not like he was faced. And when everyone thought he was going to blow the save when he had the live performance from Timmy Trumpet himself, He said, no, 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 I'm showing up. And he was there. And the only times he had rough outings is when the Mets had a comfortable enough lead that it didn't matter. He let up runs when it didn't matter. And then he still ended up shutting the door after that. So, yeah, Edwin Diaz by far, I mean, he was easily the best player on this Mets team. And it's certainly not even close. And for as good as guys like Max Scherzer were, as good as a guy like Marte was or Alonso Lindor, nope. It doesn't even matter. Edwin Diaz was the MVP for this team.
He was. I don't think much Mets fans could disagree with that one. He came into every game or every game he could have and just got the job done. We just never saw 2019 Diaz at all. Like we forget that so quickly with the season he just had. He literally was untouchable, as you said. Nobody catch up to his stuff. They know the game's over when the guy enters out of the bullpen. So I mean, there's just no question to bring this guy back. He deserves every penny, which, I mean, we haven't got to the free agent talks of this, but we'll get to it more later.
And he pitched better than his numbers back up. His fielding, if you look at his FIP, it was below 1. His ERA should have been better than it was if the defense behind him was slightly better. I mean, you can't tell me this wasn't the best, at least one of the best relief pitching single seasons from anyone. I don't want to hear an argument. To me, it was the best, but if anyone wants to have the argument, you can certainly you can't tell me it's not one of the best. I don't care about the 32 saves. If he had more opportunities, he would have got it. It does not matter. And even then, he also missed some of his save opportunities because the man had a kid and he also had a passing in his family. So he missed out on certain save opportunities. So he easily could have finished with, I don't know, maybe 35, 36. But to me, again, it doesn't matter. But we'll move on to the rest of the bullpen where it was a bit more. I mean, we'll start with Adam Ottavino. I thought he had a solid season.
Yeah, I agree with Adam Ottavino having a solid season. He was one of the few reliable guys we had in the bullpen for a while. It started to actually come together at the end of the season, but first half, he, along with Diaz, really had to kind of carry that load because, oh, my God almighty, it was a bad bullpen, but he came in those eighth innings to really kind of, you know, make the situation just keep it at how it was and then have Edwin Diaz back him up in the ninth. So I was happy with Ottavino. He has great stuff, and I loved him. I think he's honestly like 8.59 out of 10.
Okay. I could get behind an 8.5. I could get behind that just because all I think about is Matt Olson hitting one to the chop house, man. That's all I think about. That's the thing that sucks. But yeah, overall, he still had a very solid season. So I'll give him an 8.5. Like you said, he was a great bridge to Edwin Diaz. And if you could just imagine they add another eighth inning type guy to this bullpen this offseason, because then you have him and another guy that would change the entire dynamic of the bullpen. But now we'll talk about Mr. Seth Lugo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going
Seth
7 out of 10.
7? I would say like a 6.5. 7.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a 6.5 or 7.
Yeah.
It's tough, but I will say in the postseason, he was great.
Mm-hmm.
He was great.
Yes.
And that's something that helped save his score here.
Mm-hmm.
But in the regular season, I mean, he was I don't know. He was up and down. I think that's the only way to put it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like he was bad in the beginning. He definitely started to pick it up more in the second half again with him. There was times like I was like, this was the Seth Lugo, like, because remember that 2019 season, he was unbelievable. But now, like that first half, he was again like a lost cause out there. He was letting up a lot of walks, base hits after base hits. So we were very unhappy with Seth Lugo. But then he started to kind of find his groove again in the second half, and then in the playoffs, as you said, he was really good. So it definitely saved him a bit down the road. The rating that we given him, like a 6.5 or 7.
Yeah, completely agree with all that. But now to quickly round out the bullpen, we have three more guys to talk about here. Michael Givens.
Yeah, Michael Givens.
I'm going 5 out of 10. He picked it up
Okay.
towards the end, but I mean his initial
Oh,
performances here kind of tainted his uh his image here. It kind of ruined things for him.
it did, because when he first got to the Mets, yeah, it was really, really bad. I mean, we were excited when we got it. Or not, well, we weren't excited, but we're like, all right, Michael Givens, it's a solid bullpen piece. But we were just not happy because of the whole dynamic of how the trade deadline went. But that's besides the point. Michael Givens, he was horrible. I mean, he was getting booed out there when he came onto the mound
Oh yeah.
in that Colorado game. I remember in specific. So yeah, he was off to a really bad start. But then honestly, down the road, he started to perform. I feel like it went a little unnoticed because people were just so mad with what he did at the start. But he honestly closed out the season well, and he did get a playoff look. He played 2 of those games now. Well, game 3. I mean, that was like I think he played in game 3 now. I mean, that was just a
Um
disaster.
yeah. It
And
was
then
game
he came
3.
in game 2, I believe, when we had like that 3-4 in lead. I don't know, but he pitched all right in the postseason as well. So I think a 5 smack in the middle is good.
Yeah, that's the same rating. So agree there. Now we'll talk about Trevor May.
Ooh,
This is a tough one because of the fact that he was hurt most of the year. He ended up uh, getting the Roro as well during the year. So tough year for Trevor May. And then I also feel bad for the guy because he had, his cat ended up jumping off the
yeah,
balcony and passing away. So I feel bad for the guy. He had it rough this year. I'd give him. I mean, he showed up too, and when it mattered in the playoffs, he was dominant. He was dominant in the playoffs,
uh,
and I'd give him. I'm being a little more nice on him than I know most people would be. I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. I think that given the circumstances and how little he pitched, it was too small of a sample size, and he clearly was pitching hurt at the beginning of the year as well. You could tell, and I think it would have saved the season had he have been healthy for a couple of those games. But yeah, his velocity looked down, his stuff looked off at the beginning of the year. You could tell the guy was hurt. I'd give him a 6 out of 10, especially because of him showing up when it mattered.
yeah. Honestly, fair enough. I'm not disagreeing there. He didn't really pitch much at all this season. He only had 26 appearances. He definitely had to go through a lot of adversity this season with multiple things. Definitely feel for the guy and what happened with his cat, and the injury definitely I think played a factor for him, as you said. Um, yeah, I mean he did show up down the stretch when it did matter, so I'm happy with that. But then he had the times like I would say the middle of the season he just wasn't Trevor May. I know he's better than what he was in that stretch, and I don't know what to make of him. I think next season, yeah, no, he's not a free agent. So next season, I expect a big bounce back from Trevor May. I think he's going to be a really important bullpen piece for us next season. But it's tough to judge this season, as you said, because of all the factors that go into it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I forgot another guy, so we do now have two more. Let's go to Drew Smith next.
Yeah,
And I'm going to go with a. I actually want to hear your rating first. So I
about Drew
don't know.
Smith,
Because he was untouchable at the beginning of the year.
I give him honestly like a again like probably Trevor May in the 6 to in between 6 and 7. I'm being a little generous to Drew Smith.
I'd say 6.5. That's what I was
That's
thinking.
fair enough. Yeah, again, I think he looked untouchable as well in the beginning. I mean, yeah, he got the most starts of his career in 2022, 44 games he came into. Um, he was good in my opinion. Again, he's just like one of those bullpen pieces that'll come in those spots where it's like I would say he came in more winning situations, but he's tough. He is tough.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, it sucks because he's a guy that I feel like you could get more out of. I feel like he has the stuff to be more than just a mop up type guy or be a sixth inning guy. I feel like he has the stuff to become an eighth inning guy someday. It's just we haven't seen it. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, yeah, I think a 6.5 is fair. But now we move on to everybody's favorite, Mr. Joely Rodriguez.
Oh goodness
I'm
gracious!
giving him a solid 4 out of 10.
Four,
I might
fair
be
enough.
generous there. Um, he picked it up at times, but oh, his bad certainly outweighed that good, any sort of good that he had. I mean, yikes.
Joe LA. I mean, well, this guy was really only one of the few lefties we had. We had to make the move. Where we got did we get him? No, wait, was he
We
the one we
trade
got
Miguel
for?
Castro for him.
Yeah, it was the Miguel Castro trade. Okay, so yeah, we needed another lefty in the pen, so it made sense. But good grief, Joely Rodriguez was not very good. He with the 4.47 ERA in 55 games. Yeah, his bad was like bad. He just gave up absolute nukes. He would walk so many batters, and you would just question how is this guy pitching into the major leagues. But he would actually come in spots against some big time hitters and kind of blow gas by them. So he had some of his good moments, but for the most part, it was definitely on the south side.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing that I could say is that he wasn't as bad as Chase and Shreve was. That's the only thing
Yes.
I could say that was good about him. But we'll move on because we did skip actually a couple guys. Eduardo Escobar, I
Mhm.
give him a 2 out of 10 for the beginning of the year for going only in September. I give him a 9 out of 10.
Yes. Oh my. I mean, when we were absolutely hating on Eduardo that first half, but then that final month, yeah, I mean, he was super clutch for the Mets. He got that walk off where he's an absolute hero in that game. And then there was games he was just like he was getting on base, simple as that, getting hits, and we got what we wanted from the guy. But yeah, first that first couple months from Eduardo, he was a disaster. So I can't give him much high of a rating. I mean, overall in the season, I guess like a 5. But yeah, I don't know.
Fair. That's a fair rating. But we also didn't talk about the
Mhm.
catchers.
Oh,
James McCann, a 1 out of 10. He played
I
baseball
think
games,
yeah.
so that's where the 1 point comes in.
Oh
He
man,
was a guy.
yeah. He was the worst player on the New York Mets this season. I don't think there's any question about that. Um, he's not even he's
I
not good
mean,
both sides.
Darren Ruff might have had some competition there,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I get yeah, true.
but
For
maybe
the we'll say the
1.5.
member that was here for we'll say a member that was here for like the whole season, James McCann. He was the worst. I mean, he's not good on both sides, defensive or offensive. I mean, I don't know. Like whenever he's on the at the plate, it's an automatic out and coming. The Mets really got themselves in a pickle with his contract.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about the offseason, and I could certainly say, to jump ahead a bit there, he's certainly one of the guys I don't anticipate returning next season, to put it lightly. But Tomas Nito, I'd give him a 5 out of 10. He was great defensively, and there were times where he was swinging the bat hot and he came up with some clutch hits. But then there were times where he was swinging a string of spaghetti up there. So I think a 5 out of
Yeah.
10 is a fair spot.
Oh yeah, he's a great defensive catcher, one of the best framers in the game. But yeah, he just has no sort of pop. How many home runs did he have this year? Like two? He did
I think,
2 home
yeah,
runs
he
or
might have actually
so.
hit just one.
Could have been, yeah. So he
No, he
didn't
had
have any.
three.
Oh, he had three. Okay. So we lowballed the guy a little bit, but yeah. Nonetheless, he wasn't great. Definitely need that upgrade at catcher. He was only good on the defensive end. Realistically, at most of the time, 80%, he's swinging a string of spaghetti up there, as you said.
Yep. And now we move on. We saved the best for last.
Here
Do you
we
know who I'm
go.
talking about? Because I think you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. All right.
Number 4, Terrence Gore. And
Yes.
if you
Sir.
are not saying a 10 out of 10, I do not know what baseball you watch because my man came in on those base paths and he absolutely added some wins to this baseball team. What a hero.
Terrence Gore. I mean, we're the biggest Terrence Gore fans out there. I don't think that's any debate. We love the guy. Whenever that guy's on the base path, we just adore the guy. When we were at the game, we were the only idiots just cheering so loud for him, and everyone thought we were crazy. But I mean, how could you not love Terrence Gore? I mean, the guy is electric. His speed is unmatched. I want him to be back with the Mets. I really do.
Yeah, and he's supposed to bring us luck with a ring. So we need him back. We
Yeah,
need him back. Bring back Terrence. And I mean, the guy's only 5'7". How could he not love the guy? How could
yeah,
he not
for real,
love
for real.
a 5'7" baseball player? Sorry,
Oh,
Jose Altuve haters out there. But
yes.
but yeah, we got I mean, that's pretty much a season recap, which we have so much more to talk about. Oh my god. But
Yes, we do.
let's uh let's keep going. Uh what's your World Series prediction? Let's go with
World
that
Series
for now.
prediction.
I have
I'm
mine.
gonna go. I'm gonna go the Astros in six.
Damn
That's
it.
yours as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's fair to say the Phillies. I mean, no denying it. They've been having a really good run, but I don't see the Astros losing three World Series in a row to NL East teams. I think they get their act together. They haven't lost a game all postseason. Their pitching is unreal. Everyone in the lineup could hit. Uh the Phillies are good, don't get it twisted, but I think that pitching just outweighs them more. I feel like a guy like Aaron Nola might fall apart a little bit. Zach Wheeler, I mean, obviously he's very good, but I don't know. I just trust Houston's back end more and their hitters to just perform. They've been here.
Yeah, agree. And they're undefeated right now in the postseason for a reason. Even though the Phillies are giving me Nationals vibes with the way they're playing, I still got to say the Astros just because of the fact that bats have been their bats have been great. And if Jose Altuve could heat up too, that's gonna
Hmm.
could you imagine for that what that will do? But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going Astros in 6, but
Yeah.
wanted to throw a quick little World Series prediction there. Didn't want to spend too much time on it because, like I said, we got a lot to talk about here. Now we're moving on to who stays and who
Mm.
goes. Not who you want,
Yes.
who you think.
Who do
Let's
I
go
think?
down the list here, and let's start. Let's start with Jacob Degrom. Let's get it out of the way. Jacob Degrom.
Big dog. I hate to say it, but I think he's gone.
Agree.
I think the Mets are going to do everything in their power, of course, to bring this guy back. They've said it, but I just don't think it's Hearts here anymore. I think he's moving on. He's going to go somewhere down south. I just hope it's not the Atlanta Braves. I'm honestly content if he goes like the Texas Rangers. I'm of course going to be upset, but it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I'm unfortunately going to say he goes.
I'm going to agree that he's gone. And if I had to pick 3 destinations for him, the Braves, the Rangers, and the Dodgers are the 3 destinations that I
God, the
think.
Dodgers.
And we do have a comment coming in. I don't know why it's a little delayed on here, but here it is. He's gonna ask you too much, and he's ain't worth it. Too fragile. Uh, I don't know. I mean, agree to an extent. It's just I don't know. I'd rather them put the money elsewhere if he's gonna ask for 50 million, like it's
Yeah.
reported. But at the same time, it's gonna sting.
Yeah, Jake's been in a Mets uniform for so long now. Been our best pitcher. So obviously it's not going to be easy to see the guy walk, but Steve Cohen's going to use the money elsewhere if he does. So
Yep. And next, Carlos Carrasco.
Carlos Carrasco, I'm going to say he's gone. I think he's gone as well.
Okay.
You think differently?
I think he stays. And my
Oh,
reasoning is I think they want to continue to make that Lindor trade look as good as possible. And I think that they want him back as a back end of the rotation piece. I think he stays. And I
okay,
think he likes it here too.
interesting.
So that's my opinion. Do you have a reason for why you think he leaves?
Honestly, not really. It's just kind of a gut feeling. I can see him staying. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't get the vibe. I don't really have a reason for it.
Fair. And yeah, maybe they could look to
Mm,
upgrade. Edwin Diaz, this is an easy stay for me. I don't see
yeah,
any way he leaves.
he loves it here. We love him. I mean, the interest is mutual, so I don't think this is daddy stays.
Yeah, and he went from zero to hero in this town. That is for sure.
Yes.
Now we move on to a tough one. Chris Bassett.
Oh, Chris Bassett. I'm gonna say he stays. I think the New York Mets will
Okay.
keep Chris Bassett. I know you're
Wow.
gonna say he's gone, but yeah, I say stay.
I'm gonna say he's Gonzo Alonso. I think that he I don't think that he was just the way that he talked to the media kind of worries me. Like he'll always be like he doesn't like how Met fans are all the skies falling and everything after a couple losses.
Mm,
Well,
true
I
that.
I mean, I'm sorry, Chris, but you talked about all the time to the media how 2 to 3 games is at the end of the world. Well, look what happened to end your season. 2 or 3 games was the end all be all at the end of the day, Chris. So I think that he ends up going. I don't think that his
Lights
I
are
don't
too
think
bright.
I think the lights are too bright for him. I don't think he wants to be here. And I think the Mets look elsewhere either way when it comes to a number 3 starter in the rotation. And are you saying Diaz or are you saying Bassett for this,
I think he
D'Angelo?
wants to. Yeah.
But we'll come back to your comment when you have it. But yeah, I think he's gone. Trevor May.
I would keep Trevor May. I think. Oh well, oh wait, no, it's not who we think, but I have a feeling the Mets will keep him. I think he's due for some unfinished business here. I feel like this is a rough way for him to end his Mets tenure. I think they bring him back and give him another shot.
I think he's gone, but I want him to
Mm,
stay if I had to
okay.
put it the way that I do want it, which I guess we could also do that with these. But I mean, with
Mhm,
how I feel, I've pretty much with these free agents also mentioned how I felt, although I would let Carrasco walk. But with Trevor May, I want him to stay. He's like, I don't know. I like his attitude. He's
mhm,
all just let's go Mets and everything. He's just a big
exactly.
Mets guy. He represents this place well. He could pitch when it matters. The bright lights don't phase him. And I would like him back, but I think they're gonna go in a different direction in the bullpen, and I think they're gonna let him walk personally. And D'Angelo says that May sucks. I mean, I disagree. I think that he's a serviceable seventh inning guy. I think he's a great guy to have as your seventh inning pitcher. And I think that given the circumstances this year, it was tough on him.
Mhm,
But because he was good for us in his first year here, but he just wasn't in the right role. He was in the eighth inning role, and that's just not his spot. He's the seventh inning guy. And I think that if they throw him in that role, he's going to thrive. And that's just my opinion on Trevor May. But now Taiwan Walker.
Hmm. I say he goes. I mean, well, I feel like you gotta. I said Bassett's gonna stay, so I don't think it's too reasonable to say Taiwan's gonna stay either. I feel like it's one or the other there. So I think they're gonna let go of Walker. I think his time with the Mets has sadly come to an end.
I think, yeah, I think he goes. I
Mm,
think he goes. Uh, I I don't know if I want him to stay or not. Like in the first half, he's obviously so good, but the second half always concerns you. And I think they just look in another direction. They need to get the problem is they need someone that's going to give them guaranteed innings in this rotation. They
Exactly.
need a 4 or 5 starter that is going to be healthy. And let's face it, the guys they have right now have not proven enough that they could stay healthy outside of Bassett, who was healthy pretty much the entire year. None of these guys proved to be healthy. And I think that that's part of the reason we end up seeing a guy like Tyler Walker go. And D'Angelo, I disagree with this comment. He was one of the only few guys that showed up this postseason. Trevor May, that
No.
is. I disagree with that comment respectfully there. But now a bigger name, Brandon Nimmo.
Ooh, okay. So I think the Mets want to bring back Brandon Nemo. They say he's a great clubhouse guy, and Nemo, we know, is all for the Mets. He would certainly come back if the opportunity presented itself. However, I saw actually yesterday there was reports that the Colorado Rockies could be throwing like 115 to 120 million dollars his
We'll
way.
talk about
He's
that
from
later.
Colorado. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I'm gonna say in the end he will be staying in New York, Matt.
Agree. I think he stays. Personally, I'd let him walk. Because there's
Mhm.
2 other names I'd rather the Mets go after where you don't necessarily have to keep Brandon Nimmo in those scenarios. But if you end up keeping him and getting one of the 2 guys that I want, even better. But in terms of him, I think he stays. I agree. I think that at the end of the day, they're going to match whatever the highest bid is for him. And I think
Mhm.
that he's going to stay just because at the end of the day, there's not that many great options either way in center field. So, yeah, I think he ends up staying. Now, Michael Givens.
No. Um, I think they're going to let him walk. Yes. Bye bye. He was
I'm
not good for
driving
the
him to the
Mets.
airport.
Yeah, I think just wasn't a great match here. The fans got on him early for his bad performances, so it was a rough half season for him in a New York Mets uniform. But yeah, I can't see a way they retain him.
Uh, yeah. Like I said, I'll take it to the airport if you need a ride. See you later. And yeah, no, I don't want him back. I don't think he comes back. Is what it
Mm,
is. Tyler Naquin, and to that, if you also need those room in the back seat, if you need, see you later.
yes.
Tyler Naquin, I don't think comes back next year.
I think there's just no room for him in the lineup. I don't know if he'll be a starter elsewhere. He probably could, but yeah, it's definitely not the New York Mets. So don't see a way he's back.
Adam Ottavino, I think he stays.
I agree. I think he was too solid to just let him go. He's a good bridge, as we said for Diaz. I think he's a stay, and I want him to stay.
Yep, that's how I feel with Ottavino. Seth Lugo.
I think he stays too.
Yep.
I think yeah, he's been a solid Met for a while now. I think he's gonna stay.
I'd let him walk, but I think it's
Mhm.
going to be a stay for Seth Lugo. Um, Trevor Williams.
Um, I think they keep him as well. He was good. I want him to keep I want him to keep him. Yeah, he's just another good piece to round out the bullpen, and yeah,
I agree. I want him to stay. The only thing that concerns me is that he might want to get a starting job elsewhere.
he could.
So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that worries me with Trevor Williams, but I still think he stays. I think he likes it here. I think that he didn't mind the swingman role, and I think he kind of embraced the fact that that's who he is. And it's going to be a thing. Like, swingman pieces are a thing, and I think he's going to do it no matter where he goes, either way. Even if he tries to find a starter role, I think he's going to be a swingman somewhere. And I think, by the way, at some point they need to make an award for swingman pitchers because these guys deserve some love and some credit.
Hmm.
Um, I think that he stays, but that's it for who stays and who goes. We pretty much covered everything there. But yeah, the Rockies are looking to offer Brandon Nimmo a contract, and it is reportedly 120 million. Steve Cohen matches this with his eyes closed. I mean,
Exactly.
that I'm not scared of the Rockies outbidding the Mets. I am not. That's on the least of my worries.
Yeah. Like we said, Nimmo is a hometown guy over there in Colorado, so maybe that will be another factor. So that could worry me a little bit, but as you said, Steve Cohen is absolutely blowing the Rockies out of the water when it comes to negotiations like that and outbidding and whatnot. So this is definitely interesting news. But I mean, we knew there was going to be suitors for Nemo. There's no question about that. He's a great player. We've heard the Yankees as well, which I would hate, but I don't think Nemo would be that guy to go to the Yankees. I feel like he wants to stay a Met, and if we give him the right offer, there will not be a doubt he's back.
Well, if the Yankees dare touch Nimmo, then the
Oh,
Mets
we'll
are
touch
going
their
to.
toy.
Oh, we'll fire back if they're gonna play with fire. Then Steve Cohen is not going to mess around, and I think that if anything, we should kind of hope for the
Could be a blessing
Yankees.
in disguise.
It could be if the Yankees start talking to Brandon Nimmo, it could be a blessing in disguise because then the Mets might be like, oh, I thought we had a little respect factor here for each other. If we're not going to have that respect factor, then all right. If you're going to play that game, all right. Well, Aaron Judge, I mean, they're also, we're going to talk about this later, but I'll jump to it now. They're moving in the right field fence. Looks like a good place to add Judge's chambers, doesn't it?
Oh, it very much does. I like that little addition that they're adding for the new season. So yeah, that would be a great little thing for Aaron Judge said nuke after nuke in City Field in that orange and
Make
blue.
it feel at home too with the short porch.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
And it's about time, by the way, they move in that fence. It is about time. I'm very happy that they're going to do that. Just on, all jokes aside, they needed to do it. There were way too many instances where there were just far pop outs this year, and it was aggravating. Granted, I mean, I guess some of the home runs that the Padres hit would have, looked a bit better, but still, it's
Mm.
about time that they moved in the fence. But now we'll move into the final topic of the episode. Who is on the wish list of acquisitions? If you had to be realistic, but
Realistic.
also, also a little wishful here.
Okay. Um, I think one that's very realistic, and I think the Mets could really benefit off is Carlos Rodon. I think he is
Yes.
a very good starter, lefty. Mets could use lefty in the rotation. He's the perfect three guy. I mean, he could be the two guy with Jacob DeGrom potentially at the door, but he's a guy I think the Mets should be all over. There's I feel like a good connection there. He is a very good pitcher, and I would love the Mets to go out and spend on him. For another guy, for the DH spot, I would love them to go out and get Jose Abreu. Realistically,
Okay.
yeah, I think he's a veteran. He's getting up there, but he's still very, very good. And I think I don't like this platooning of the lefty righty. I feel like Jose Abreu could hit both sides, righty left, or hit both pitchers, righty lefty, just as well, and be that true DH the Mets have needed. And if we're talking more big dogs, of course, Aaron Judge is on the hit list. I feel like you do anything in your power to bring him over to Queens. He's one of the best players in baseball. And the Mets would die to have a guy like him on their team. Trey Turner, of course, is always intriguing.
Yep.
He said in an interview that his favorite stadium to play out on the road is Citi Field. He loves his dream teammates Jacob DeGrom. I mean, I don't know. I like Trey Turner. Freaking does everything right. He plays a lot of positions. So those are guys that are off the top of my head.
I
I
do
would love.
wonder though if that was a tactic there to get Steve Cohen to show the money a bit and
Yeah,
hand out the dough a bit. I do wonder if that was a tactic there on his behalf, but
it could have been.
uh if I had to give, since you gave three guys, I'll give three guys.
Mhm.
I would love Carlos Rodon too. I think that he makes perfect sense for this team as a starting pitcher, and he's been great. And they should have signed him last offseason. I don't think there's any question about it. Would love
Mhm.
Carlos Rodon here. Uh, Another guy who is kind of going under the radar that he's a free agent, Nolan Arenado. I think he opts out of that contract because he could get more from Steve Cohen. This team has a glaring hole at third base. You move Escobar to the DH. You have a switch hitter then at DH. You play
Ooh.
Nolan Arenado at third base. He has the glove. He has the bat. He would fit this team so well when it comes to the team needing a middle of the order bat, when it comes to the team needing help defensively at third base, when it comes to just overall fit. Nolan Arenado, if the Mets want to go big game hunting like it's reported, the guy that they should go after, listen, I love Trey Turner as a fallback option, which isn't a bad consolation prize at all because I do like him. This team, I feel, needs an upgrade at the leadoff spot. I think that Nimmo is not the guy to be leading off, but for a fallback, he's not bad at all. But the main guy I'd target is Nolan Arenado. If he ends up hitting the market, he is by definition, the perfect fit for this organization.
Oh yeah, I did not even that didn't even come into my brain. As you said, he's definitely going very under the radar. That he's becoming a free agent. That would be very good. I would love that. As you said, you put Escobar on the DH switch hitter. It does make great sense. That third base, you fill the problem. Guy that does it well on both ends. I mean, yeah, that's a very good thought right there.
And the last guy that I will mention, I'd be okay with either guy here, so I'm going to mention two. I would love this team we know needs a lefty bat in that outfield outside of Nemo to platoon maybe with Canna or to maybe even start depending on who's swinging the hotter bat. There are two guys that you could look at here. Do you want the guy with some pop and that could hit in the middle of the order? Well, Jock Peterson is a
Hmm.
name that has some pop that could hit in the middle of the order. Probably won't be that expensive for you to get. So Jock Peterson's a name. Or if the Yankees really are looking at Nemo and you do want to fire back Andrew Benintendi, if you want more of the guy that could lead off, the guy that's going to get on base, hit for contact, give you some doubles, give you some singles, Andrew Benintendi is certainly a guy that I would explore from the Mets. He's not going to cost that much either. And he's certainly an upgrade over what you have with Tyler Naquin as well. Obviously, Jock Peterson as well. Both of them huge upgrades. And it's just a matter of what you prefer. If your preference is to go for more of a power type bat, you go with Jock Peterson. If you feel you need more of the on base, contact, scrappy type player, Benintendi fits perfectly too.
Yeah, I think those are two very good options as well. Left field, it's not very deep here in free agency. But there is some under the radar options, as you said, Benintendi, Peterson. Peterson obviously has a big bat, could really drive a couple out to the Coca Cola corner. You have Benintendi, as you said, like it's pick what you want here with the contact or the power. I think those are both good options if the Mets just want to go the route of taking one of these players instead of like the bigger names that we've been listing here. So I think it makes total sense for sure. Mhm.
Because, yeah, I mean, either way, this team's going to need the target starting pitching because obviously you're losing four guys right now in your rotation. And if you have Rodon, and then for me, I had Carrasco coming back. I don't know who else fills out this rotation. I don't. I think they
Yeah,
go internal, maybe with Tyler McGill or David Peterson filling out one of the spots. Then you still have a
make
glaring hole. I think they should. Are they going to? No, but I think they should do it. I think they should make the Otani trade. And I know, I know people are going to say, well, here's the thing. Oh, you don't want to give up the farm. You don't want to do this. To me, I do not care. I don't care. Are you trying to win in this 3 to 5 year window that Steve Cohen set? Or are you trying to be a tweener team and oh, these prospects might be good. Let's hope that we hit on them. Or do you want the guaranteed guy that is going to put this team from a contender to a World Series contender? And that eliminates one free agent bat that you'd have to sign because your DH right there is Shohei Ohtani. I'd still go after Nolan Arenado if they could, but you eliminate one of your options there as a bat. You don't have to sign a Benintendi or Jock Peterson. You have your guy there, your left-handed bat, and he could be your DH. And if he's not playing, all right, then Eduardo Escobar is not a bad DH. Why not? And you go out then instead. And if I would do it, I know people are going to be against it. I'd move Francisco Alvarez and I'd just go out and sign Contreras. If this
Ooh.
team is serious about winning a World Series, it's time to start acting like it and it's time to start making moves. The Dodgers, if you want to be the Dodgers East, the Dodgers make a move like that. The Dodgers throw their prospects away in a move like that and they say, we don't care. Look at what they did getting Mookie Betts. They did not care, and it was the right move. Verdugo's a solid player. Jeter Downs, I don't know how he's been, but look at some of the guys that they lost. They haven't done anything really in Boston. And I mean, that's the Boston Red Sox. The Angels, I mean, they can't even develop a single player at all. And if you want to talk about giving guys up, Otani is the guy. You fill two holes in one, and it makes the most sense to do. I'd do it.
Yes, I agree. I don't know if I would give up Alvarez, but I'm completely fine with giving up everyone else. As you said, though, I mean, if they're giving up Alvarez and they get Contreras in return, sign me up. You just have to have that backup option because I'm not rolling out there with James McCann, Tomas Anita there at catcher next year. But as you said, Shohei Ohtani fills out two needs with a bat and pitching. That Shohei Ohtani is the most useful player in baseball, honestly, just for the pure fact he could do it on both the pitching and for hitting. It's unbelievable. I would trade every prospect you have. Probably if you don't have to, I would try without Alvarez. Given he has 1 year left on his contract, I don't think he'll be resigning with the Angels. So they're going to try everything in their power to. I mean, well, they're going to try and trade him, I would say, because they were going to want to get value for him.
The
But
problem is all 29 teams are lining up at the door
exactly,
to make an
yeah.
offer.
So you have to make your price really. You make a good point there because who doesn't
I'd
want
do it.
Shohei Ohtani? Yeah, then you might have to if you really have to. Because Shohei Ohtani is generational, and we know he was in New York with the New York Mets. So, I think it's a good move. He
I would
throws up
take
both
Christian
holes.
Vasquez too, if you have to at
Yeah,
catcher.
just something competent. Yeah, definitely sign me up because, as you said, Steve Cohen, he's been talking about this big game hunting. So let's see it. I think we're gearing up for a big offseason here.
And I know someone that is both a Ranger and Met fan. I know people are going to say, well, doesn't that contradict what you say about Patrick Kane? Well, there's a difference between the NHL and the MLB. There's a difference between the Mets development and the Rangers development. And there's also a difference between the fact that you are getting a guy that fills two needs versus a guy that fills one need when it comes to obviously Patrick Kane with the Rangers. So I know people are going to say that contradicts it, but to me, it does not matter. This is a guy where Patrick Kane is probably what, top 25, top 30 in the league. When you
That's
talk
fair.
Shohei
Yeah.
Ohtani, he is the second best player, if not the best in the entire sport.
Mm-hmm.
You give up because obviously it's a whole different conversation if you're talking the Rangers give up all those prospects and everything for Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews. That's a different conversation. I'm listening. I'm intrigued. But when you have an opportunity to get the second best or the best player in the sport, you listen, not a guy that's middle of the pack. Because if we're talking I'm trying to think of a baseball example of this one. Like maybe a who's like a top 25, 30 middle of the pack player in baseball where you could give
Mhm.
me an example here of this.
That's like on the older side, or
Uh yeah, maybe a bit on the older side, but even if it's just a 25, 30 range, like if you could give me a name, like I'm trying to think. Let's
uh, maybe like Jose Ramirez. Mm,
yes, Jose Ramirez. That's a perfect example. I would say with Jose that you don't mortgage the farm for a guy like that. He's good, he's great, but if they ask for Alvarez, he's someone you hang up the phone on. You hang up the phone on the Guardians. But if you're talking others, if you're talking a top two player, I mean, you do it. You do it.
yeah.
That's just my opinion of it. You change your entire team, both offensively and on the pitching side. You got to do it.
It does make sense, honestly, because you got me thinking. I mean, every team's going to be at the door for Shohei Ohtani, contending or not, because he's young. He is a pitcher. He's a hitter. Like, this guy makes your team 10 times better. No denying it. So, the Mets are in a position where they could really kind of beat everyone's offer here because of the prospects they have. So if you throw in Alvarez, that's already a really big piece. Throwing like Beatty, Mauricio, like you could really start thinking about getting a deal done. So I don't know if they're ready to trade him right now in the offseason or if that's later in the season decision. But I mean, yeah, this time could be as soon as now.
Yep, completely agree. But do you have anything else to add to the episode before we close it out?
Um, I don't really. I mean,
We covered a
free
lot.
agency starts. Wait, what happened?
We covered a lot.
Yeah, we
Jeez.
did. So there's not much else, but free agency as well. Like literally right after the World Series ends, like you could start talking.
Yeah,
Oh,
which we'll probably do an episode sometime after the World Series. I mean, we'll figure out a day. So we'll try to make this weekly. Who knows if it's going to stick on Fridays, but we'll try to get an episode out for you guys once a week as best as we could. We want to get more
over the
consistent
rumor.
with this. Yeah, especially with all the rumors. We want to get more consistent and we're going to try our best here, especially when times are going to get tough. Because obviously, there are times we'll probably do it. We did. If you watch our Rangers show, you guys know that we did just, kind of more laid back, fun episodes where we did trivias, we did tier list, all things like that. We'll do something like that as the offseason goes because it's going to be hard to talk about the offseason nonstop, which as we get more dry into the offseason, we'll probably just do every other week episodes. But for right now, since we're, kind of in the heat of the offseason starting up soon, we'll probably do weekly episodes. And D'Angelo, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the kind
Yeah,
words there. We
thanks,
really
bro.
do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to this episode because this was a long episode. So you must have liked us if you went through it. So you might as well subscribe and give us a rating, leave a like, all of that if you did enjoy this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys in the next episode. Let's go, Mets.